Hey YouTube, welcome back to EagleX TCG, and today we're coming at you with another Gundam card game video. Now, we have made plenty of videos about how to build decks, how to particularly play decks, why decks are built this way, but today I want to start a new little trend on how to beat certain decks. So today we're going to start off with a lot of people's boogeyman, the blue-red tempo ping deck, and we're going to dismantle how to play against it just in case you're having trouble. So I hope you guys lock yourselves in and get ready to enjoy another bit of competitive card gaming content. So let's go. So before we get this started, I just want to let you guys know that in the description I have two videos, one of them being an in-depth breakdown on how to build this deck, how to pilot it, why the card choices are the way they are, as well as a game set between UR Tempo Ping versus my own personal pet brew, Blue-White Federation Tempo. Both of them should add a lot of context and data to a video like this, so I hope you guys go down there in the description, check them out, and while you're there, maybe even like the video and subscribe for more Gundam card game content. Now, we need to talk about the ways that you can prepare for this deck, both at the deck building stage as well as how you need to operate versus them to heighten your win percentage. So yeah, let's hop into that first with the deck side. So when it comes to deck building versus deck, everybody knows that one of the things that blue-red tempo does the best is it removes on tempo. It constantly is able to play bodies while removing your bodies, and that forward momentum carries it through the game. However, what if I told you that the more HP your units have, the harder they are to burn? Now, there is going to be kind of a threshold to this, because 1, 2, 3 HP units are very easy to get burned out of the game, almost regardless of whether they're active or rested. This is going to be a concept that we talk about a little later in the video, but most of these can be removed. Like 1 and 2 HP units are extremely easily removed, whether they are active or rested. 3 definitely would be better if rested, but can still be removed fairly easily if active. Now, once you get to 4 and 4 HP, this is where it starts to kind of fall off, because you need to basically have it rested for them to have easy access to eradicating it. Otherwise, they kind of got to do a lot more, and it gets a little more narrow. Like, you need a specific LR with a specific pilot and then a specific command to get rid of an active mode for 4 HP unit. Now, 5 definitely needs to be rested. A 5 HP unit is going to be great when it's inactive and almost impervious to this deck's shenanigans, but a 6 HP unit is pretty much going to be impervious to all this deck's shenanigans, and that is going to be the fact that you can't rest it with Amuro because of its 6 HP, and then the 6 HP is also going to require multiple cards to go into it. Now, how do you achieve these numbers? Well, 5 and 6 may seem a little bit lofty, but luckily every color has 2 HP pilots. So those are the ones that are going to appear on the screen right now, and the inclusion of these can really help your matchup by making certain bodies on your field just better weatherproofed for the storm of ping damage that's going to be coming from this opposing blue-red tempo deck. And these pilots, they come in decks that are pretty much already maining 4 of them, and sometimes it's not as obvious as that. Like, for instance, with green, most wing players are already playing multiple copies of Duo, 3 to 4, in most cases 4. So yes, this is already staple there. In blue, a lot of blue decks are starting to use the unicorn package as their primary offense, and that is going to allow Benager to sneak its way into quite a few blue lists. However, once we get over to white, a lot of white decks have kind of strayed away from using Suletta, but Suletta is a 2 HP pilot that can easily get you to the 5 or 6 HP threshold. And then in red, you have the just as controversial Full Frontal, who comes out a little late in the game, and that may be a little bit hard to match up with the early aggression that this deck comes out with. But yeah, this is really going to be something that works when it comes to just keeping your guys a little healthier. That plus 2 HP can push you out of range for them to effectively deal with your unit. Now, the next part I want to talk about is if you're playing white, Cards like Ilfrith go a long way. An early game blocker that can eat up a 2/2, swing into another 2/2 if they attack after you blocked, can really go a long way, because managing their field really helps you survive and then outlast their deck shenanigans and then capitalize on it when their hand is low, which is a big thing that we will get into as we talk about how you should handle the game once you're at the table. But Ilfrith, definitely great against it. If you're playing white, you need to be maxing out on Ilfrith if this is the deck that you're fearing the most. And then the last part I want to talk about when it comes to building your deck to handle this is repair. If you are playing a blue deck, or if blue is just your color, the more repair that's in your deck, it's likely going to result in you making some incredibly uncomfortable trades. The amount of times where I have had to have my gun cannon, not my Gundam, not my unicorn cards, but my gun cannon with Sayla underneath with repair 2, gun tanked, and then after being gun tanked, Battle of Ace in this same turn. Something that's normally a kill shot on a sizable mid-game body is great. It's great, and it's great when you see them use a commodity like that on something you considered almost fodder. Repair 2 is the magic number against this deck, because you're able to eat all of their weenies and go up to full health, and then they have to use a card to damage you again, and then another card to finally finish you off. And that is going to be attacks on their hand that can only be sustained for so long. So yeah, if you have the ability to fit in more repair to your deck, Gundam from the Gundam LR from the starter deck 1, Saylas, things like that, I would highly suggest it. Very, very, very good against all aggro and this very aggressive tempo deck. And now we're gonna hop over and talk about the things that you should be wary at on the table. So when you play against the blue-red tempo ping deck, I think the first thing we have to pay attention to is the ways that it burns you. And we're gonna put a couple cards on screen just to kind of show you that. And those cards are going to be Gun Tank, the Anksha, Kshatriya LR, Marita the Pilot, and then last but not least, Battle of Aces. Now, when it comes to these cards, they have multiple thresholds for how they work. The one that is the most free is the pairing of Kshatriya with a Marita. This is no matter what going to ping 1 damage to up to 2 units that your opponent controls, and that's going to be the most freest type of ping. On top of that, it's also going to be able to swing and ping something that has level 5 or lower due to Marita's pilot effect. This is going to be very important because this is the ping you cannot work around. Marita can have some fall off when you start playing bigger bodies, but Marita pairing with Kshatriya and Kshatriya's ability going off, this is the one that you, no matter what you try to do, this will always enable certain cards. Now, the other threshold that's also very, very relevant is whether or not your units are rested or not, because the Gun Tank and the Anksha can only ping rested units. And what's more, you got to see that these 2/2 bodies that will be employed, the GMs, the Zaku or the Marine Zaku, these guys are essentially part of the burn package. Because if your unit has 3 HP and I send a 2/2 into it and then hit it with a gun tank because it was rested because it swung last turn, it's gone, okay? If you have a 5 cost or a 5 HP body on the board, but you attacked with it, I can swing a 2/2 into it, and now that it took 2 damage and it's damaged, I can hit you with Battle of Aces for the remaining 3 HP. So whether you're rested or active is a huge threshold to what this deck can do, and you should keep that knowledge accordingly. There could be a swing you could do, but just understand that you could be opening yourself up. And the third threshold, we talked about Battle of Aces, is just if your unit is damaged in general, which is going to allow them to use their most powerful burn spell for an additional 3 damage. Now, because of this, I personally have gotten to a point where if a unit is damaged, I will send him into way more riskier plays. If I have a thing with 4 HP, but it has 1 damage on it, versus something with 3 HP, I am likely going to crash into your unit with the guy that has 1 damage on it, because that guy can be smoked by Battle of Aces, whereas my guy with 3 HP but no damage, you need to apply a damage to him first before you can use Battle of Aces, which means that at very best for you, the blue-red player, they're swinging into you with a body and then hitting you with a burn effect. At the very worst for them, they'll have to play out something like a gun tank or an Angsha and then play the burn spell, which might seem like it's good tempo. It is still good tempo, but they had to use 2 cards for just your 1 because you got rid of the guy that could already just be XO'd by Battle of Aces. And these trades are important because it's going to bring me to my next point when it comes to how to play against this deck, and that is going to be the fact that this deck is an aggressive tempo deck with very little ways to plus, and it's combo centric. A lot of its card plays are going to involve not 1, not 2, but sometimes even 3 separate cards. A gun tank, and a Battle of Aces. A gun tank, an Angsha, and a Battle of Aces. This could be extremely cumbersome when it comes to keeping your hand at a healthy size. LR Kshatriya into a Marita into a Battle of Aces just to get rid of a thing with, like, I don't know, 5 health. Like, because then you'll swing with Marita under Kshatriya and ping it for its last health. It's just kind of rough. Now, with this deck spamming out the lobies, most of these decks do play more of an aggro variant. When they play out a 2-2, and then another 2-2, and then a Rozelle, and then a Kshatriya with a Marita, they're burning through their hand. So when they are able to press through and destroy all your life, that's where they seem insurmountable. But when your deck has a lot of bodies that can have repair, that can crash into their bodies, when you have things like gun cannon and Amro that'll rest 2 things at one time, allowing you to get rid of 2 bodies at once before they can even swing, you will start reversing the polarity, and they can only fill up their board so many times until they have 1 or 2 cards left in hand, and you're able to finally stabilize and breathe as long as you have like 2, maybe 3 shields left. And this is going to be a big thing when it comes to this deck. Now, granted, outlasting them should be the goal. I find that in most decks, unless I'm playing like the Mirror or 1 Year War Aggro, it is maintaining their bodies. Like, I actually don't even focus on their shields if I'm not playing an aggressive deck. I will focus on their bodies because they will keep filling up the board, you will keep removing it, and eventually they will have like 2 cards in hand, but like 5 life, 5 shields. And then you just slowly make sure, address the board, attack the shields, address the board, attack the shields, in that order. As you build up bodies, you may even only peck 1 card into their hand because you never know when it's going to be a burst. Of course, if it's a base, you do want to get rid of the base immediately and then pause, but sometimes when they only have 1 or 2 cards in hand, you will just want to make sure you rest their board, bounce the card on the field, do whatever you need to do, what your deck allows you to do, breach it maybe, get a damage in, but don't give them too much damage, because if you knock like 2 pilots into their hand, they may actually be able to come at you with a crazy like Marita link and an Amro pair link, and that really could throw your game into the trash. So realistically, just make sure that board is under control and their hand will whittle over the next couple of turns, allowing you to really get it in there. Now, there is going to be a slight wrench to this problem, and this is going to be Gundam Banshee, because Gundam Banshee will recycle a bunch of good cards, not draw them though, so they still have to draw them, and that could be rough if they've already if they don't see enough show of resolves throughout that game after they hit the Banshee effect. But Banshee being able to swing twice with first strike is pretty devastating. 7 AP on a first striker is very devastating. The fact that they will likely be pinging your unit by 1, unless it is a very large costing unit or level unit, is generally going to mean that they have the reach of 8 HP, which is absolutely huge. So when it comes to this, Banshee is a wild card. You always have to be ready for this, but luckily, because Banshee requires exactly 12 cards, well, 12 cards or more in trash, you can constantly watch their trash to make sure they don't have it. Now, just understand though, because this deck runs 2 command cards, you do have the ability to be at like, you know, 11, and then use a Battle of Aces on something and be at 12, or use a Show of Resolve and then be at 12. You also have to be cognizant of when they have like 9 cards in trash but 3 bodies on board, but you just swung out last turn, because then they can start crashing their bodies in your bodies to get some clearing, but then play out Banshee and Marita and then use that effect to get the shuffle and the dual attack, clear out more bodies, hit health or shields twice. There's a lot of things they can do. So constantly paying attention to seeing whether or not they have around 12, and kind of thinking a turn or two ahead to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for the ultimate Banshee play is important. For instance, if the only way they can break your best cards on board is by using Banshee, but you know that you still have control of the board, it just may be good not to swing with a unit that you don't want to get clapped up next turn. Make them not want to play the Banshee. Maybe next turn you can play out 2 more bodies. And then if they don't have anything to say about them, which, like I said, the later you get in the game, the less cards they have in the game to combo off with, the harder it's going to be. You might just be able to swing for alpha the following turn instead of having to have half of your board get taken out. Then they're put in this weird position where even if they play Banshee, if you have 4 targets, they got to choose 2 of them and hope it's enough. And that's really, really hard. Now, the same thing can be said, though, about blockers. If you are going in and you play a blocker close to their Banshee turns, you will put them in a position where they have to choose 1 valid target because your blocker will get in the way of one of the Banshee attacks. So these are all things to consider. Banshee is a pinch hitter. It is definitely a card that is going to come off the top ropes and attempt to turn the game around, so you have to be watching for it. But realistically, if I had to sum up this part, I would say that when you're playing with it, watch out for these good trades that would normally be good in any other matchup, because chances are if you leave something with 1 HP rested, it is gone the next turn while they gain a body. The next part is I would personally worry about their board, then worry about their shields later, as long as you are not a deck on the same aggro vibes as they are. Because generally, if you are playing a mid-range deck, your in-game will be stronger than their in-game, but they can kill you in the early to mid-game of this game. So you pretty much have to make sure that you get to your in-game when their hand is at the weakest, and as long as their board is kept under control, you can stabilize here. Trying to race this deck is hard because you will have to choose between board and face, and they will only be swinging face for the most part and only be swinging board when it benefits them or when they can't quite make the reach with their burn damage or their ping damage. So racing this deck, kind of rough, wouldn't advise it. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Like I said, if you want to see some of this in action, go in the description, check out that match. I do believe you get to see a lot of it. And if you want to see more matches from that, because we played a best out of 3, I uploaded 1, I edited 1, just let me know. Get that video over 200 likes and we'll get the ball rolling. So yeah, that's pretty much that. And let's head to the closing. So yeah, all in all, there are a lot of ways to combat this deck. Certain decks have better chances. I'm going to just pretty much put it out there. If you are trying to play an aggro deck versus blue-red tempo ping, you are probably just cooked. You guys can race each other, but the issue, like I said, is that you will have to be choosing between face and board. And this deck does not have to choose. They will remove your tiny weenie bodies while going face, and that is pretty much the issue. But however, the other decks in the format that are hitting the most rounds, like the white-blue blockers, should be able to curve out enough blockers and then stabilize. It is a little harder for them to get rid of the board because they don't have a lot of repair. They will be mostly relying on Kira's. They'll be bouncing things that have to that can't be linked with, things like that. Wing is in a pretty good position if they can survive, but that's the hardest part. They have to see their Ilfris, they have to see their blockers, they have to see their 6 HP bases. But if they can get to Wing 0, they will pretty much body the matchup, because 1 Wing 0 will clap most of the bodies in this deck, 2 Wing 0s will clap pretty much everything that is not Banshee. And therein lies kind of the issue with this deck. If you don't beat Wing, if you have a stumble, if you don't draw correctly and you can't close out game versus Wing, they will 100% come down and just make sure your board gets evaporated. So that's kind of the issue versus that. Most decks that can last till the late game can actually have a pretty good game versus this deck. But I do believe that a lot of decks, a lot of players perhaps, aren't really paying enough attention to the board. a lot of people consider racing this deck, and that's just not a viable option. If they don't have a board, they have to keep building the board. At some point, they will no longer be able to build the board, and their hand will be too low to play their combo-centric style, and then that's the point where you can slow it down and try to capitalize off of it, really only worrying about Banshee as a threat. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know how you guys have been faring against the blue-red tempo ping deck. Let me know what you guys have been playing against it as well. I want to have a whole discussion in the comments. Thank you guys so much for your support. Remember, I have the full breakdown on this deck, how to build it, how to play it, as well as some gameplay in the description. And then the last thing I wanted to say was that from last video, I said that the blue-white Federation tempo deck list would drop if that video got 200 likes. It's really close. So if you guys want to see that list on the channel, make sure you go there and like that video. But also, I put it up on the Patreon on the same day, and we have 2 new members. So I want to give a special shout out to Kennedy S as well as OKP. Thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and keep your eyes out for more, because all of my content that I want to put up early, or just like wait until we have the correct metrics to release on the channel, will be going up on the Patreon the moment I make it. So thank you guys for that, and I will see you in the next video.